Hello, good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming. Would you please, this is our April 8th Town Board regular meeting. Would you please stand for the pledge? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like a motion for the approval of our prior minutes from our March 25th regular town board meeting. Thanks, Alan. May I have a second? Thanks, Ed. Is there any discussion? Any questions, comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved. We have two public hearings open tonight at 6 p.m. Due to an error, the fire contract missed the agenda, but we're still voting on it tonight. It's been properly noticed, so I'm opening the public hearings for the continuation of the local law amending the town code, chapter 125, zoning in the matter of establishing a workforce housing district as a floating district, providing a procedure for location of a workforce housing district, and setting forth regulations for developing therein. And I'm also taking comments still on the two fire department contracts for Rhinecliff and Hillside. Let's go with the fire departments first. Does anybody have any comment? We have a resolution before us, 2019-113, approving contracts with the Hillside Fire District for 2009 and for the Rhinecliff Fire District for 2009. Hillside in the amount of $28,493 and Rhinecliff in the amount of $31,000. I'd like to make a motion for resolution 2019-113 and have a second. Is there any discussion? Any comment?
I think you said all nine.
19.
Is it 19?
2019, I hope I did. That's what the resolution says, so whatever I say, that's what the resolution says. 2019-113. Any further discussion, comments, questions? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved. That's done, and we have our public hearing. It's a continuation for our workforce housing. Is anybody here to speak?
I'd like to speak if I hear comments.
Well, you're the comments. We're not commenting. If you could come up and use the microphone and introduce yourself. It's a public hearing, so we hear from you. You're good. You're funded. Thank you. Thank you for your help.
So, my name is Stephen Leon.
I'm sorry, what's your name?
Stephen Leon.
Did we speak?
I'm a political.
Okay.
And I came to tell the board that I'm totally opposed to this.
Yeah, it's not on. Can't hear him. Right.
Yeah, that's better. So I oppose it, and I think the board does also. I've seen this implemented in prior places that I've lived. Rhinebeck will not be the exception if you downzone because of the so-called workforce floating zone. Basically, at the end of the day, to tell unit residents, two things are sure to happen. One is your property values will go down and your taxes will go up. That's the bottom line. This workforce zone, if you're talking about downzoning, talk about downzoning. The concept of this, I read it briefly, and I remember it 2 years ago. Not only is it not necessary, but according to my attorneys, it may be illegal to do this. And if this thing gets serious, I'll have them look into it. Rhinebeck does not need a floating workforce zone for how many as you are proposing. There's plenty of affordable housing 15 minutes away in Kingston, in Hyde Park. I don't know who these unidentified work people are, but they're not here now. And the idea is to preserve Rhinebeck this has the total opposite effect. I can tell you where they've done it. I can show you the end result of this, and it's just not a good idea. And I hope that before you do anything foolish, you look into it, maybe actually check into communities where they've done this work, where they downzone because of this workforce proposal, and see the end result.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to speak?
Hi, Michael Gee. I'm on the Village Planning Board. I was approached by a neighbor 2 days ago who brought this to my attention and doesn't know a lot about it and asked me what I know, and I said, I have no idea. And I guess I'm going to ask you, what are you doing, because I haven't seen anything. We don't have local papers. I read the Kingston Freeman, I read the Poughkeepsie Journal. There's been nothing in either of those two papers that I've seen about this. And as a member of a planning board, just the term floating zoning doesn't kind of ring well to me. But I know nothing. And when people who are, in the village are asking me and I know nothing, I'm like, I don't like that thought. So, what little bit I saw from the neighbor who kind of gave me stuff, whatever you've done, and I don't really know, but it just seems like you want to do it right up against the village, and there's been no consultation with the village, at least with our planning board or the mayor. Village and town are, we work together. And if you're going to do something, I would say, try to work with the big constituency and don't try to do something that people don't know what you're doing. Because I don't know, and usually I know a lot. So I would like an explanation of this before you do whatever you're doing, because I don't know what you're doing. Is it on the website? The one neighbor gave me a letter from your planning board person that doesn't seem to be in favor of what you're doing. And I know in the village, when we have things come up, we are asked, what is our opinion? And we, do our work, and then we, do it in an advisory. And then, we don't sometimes make the decisions. That would be the village board, but at least, there is communication between the boards and, interaction. And I'm hoping, you think about that, because I have no idea except for what I see on the village planning board is there's a lot of people with money who are coming in here and they have ideas of what they want to do, and they make kind of motions, they do things that they want that's going to impact their wallets, but they don't think about what are the laws. And if you're going to think of a workforce housing zone that butts up against the village, that's going to impact the village in terms of traffic, police, water, sewage. We'd like to know about that. So the word floating means just whatever we decide when we decide it. So think before you put something out, put it out so that the people can know about it. Thank you.
Yes, please. Testimony.
Hi, my name is Mike Irwin. Liz and I have lived in the village for going on 43 years now. And we live on Oak Street, the corner of Oak and Chestnut, West Chestnut. And I haven't heard as well, just bits and pieces about this I'll just say project, I don't know if that's the correct word or not. But I would be interested in what your thoughts are as far as getting the information out to the general public, what means that you would use, whether it be local newspapers or so forth and so on, something to think about. And also, I would like a definition of what you consider workforce community. You know, not that I'm confused about that, but just would like a more specific.
I'm sorry, workforce community or workforce housing?
Workforce housing, well, what do you mean by that? I mean, there are a lot of things that you could think of in regards to that, and you don't want to make false assumptions, all right? But it would be nice that the community would know at large what workforce housing implies. You know, so we all have, you know, the general public has a clear idea of what's being proposed, and I think it would be good for everyone to, so we're sort of all on the same page where one person isn't thinking one thing, another person thinking another thing, and so on and so forth. That just causes confusion and somewhat chaos to a degree. All right, so that's my thoughts on it. And so we'll see where it goes from here.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
And since, you know, we're not adjacent to it, but, you know, we're on Oak Street, and we're in close, our residents are in close proximity to the proposed housing project. So, you know, we're concerned. I'm not concerned. I'm just interested in what's going on. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Jordan Baker. My wife Sandra and I own the Baker House Bed and Breakfast, which is right on the border of the village and the town on 65 West Market Street. We, like the other gentleman who spoke, were alerted in regards to this situation by a neighbor over the weekend. And I guess what I would like to stress, because it's something that's, I feel, so commonly overlooked, is the issue of aesthetics. And what I would like to remind everyone is how rare it is to have so clearly demarcated distinction between a 19th century commercial district and woodlands. And I think that's something really worth reminding people about and championing, and something worth fighting for. I don't want to sound like just because I live there and I'm some kind of jerk that doesn't want neighbors living next to me. Part of the very appeal for my wife and I to buy what was a very humiliated Victorian house was specifically because of that setting. So the idea of calling it a gateway district, if there is anything indeed that one could say is a gateway, it would be the fact that when you drive out of the village toward Rhinecliff, that view, that woodlands there, that's a gateway proper. And it's beautiful. It's one of the only views, really, that Rhinebeck has. I would just like to stress the importance and significance of that, and the fact that it's tethered not only to as a distinct boundary between the two, but the fact that it has a farm, a working farm with cows across the street too, is something of a novelty, especially for someone like my wife and I, who came from New Jersey, where suburban sprawl runs just rampant in absolutely every direction. The idea of putting that many, prefabricated style houses in place of woodlands on the edge, picturesque edge of a quaint 19th century village, to me just sounds like an unfortunate decision and not something that the people who live here would really benefit from.
Thank you for coming, and your B&B looks great.
Oh, thank you.
George's right. So we were alerted just a couple days ago, I found like a couple articles in the Daily Freeman about the hearing. It alarmed me and it scared me. I don't know a lot about it. Not many people do. I think what I read was that this was the last hearing, public hearing, that this was the end, and I don't think that should be the end of a public hearing because so many people that I know have never heard about this. So I think this needs a little bit more time. Also, what really alarmed me was not only, it seemed to me from what I read that it would be opening up the land surrounding the village to developers. That is scary to me. We don't want suburban sprawl in the Hudson Valley. It is not a good idea. It ruins everything. It will ruin the village. And also the affordable housing. There are, as one other gentleman had said, lots of housing in other towns and cities in the Hudson Valley. There are lots of existing buildings that could be turned into affordable housing and maybe revive some of the smaller towns and cities around the Hudson Valley instead of, making the suburbia. We don't want the Hudson Valley to be suburbia. We want it to be a bucolic, country setting. That's why we all moved here. Also, the affordable housing thing, what I read was that to a certain, so a developer could come in and build a certain number of housing units per, acre if a certain percentage, like this says, if 80% of the units conform with affordable housing price regulations. But I also read that the developer could pay a fee per square foot to get those units exempt from affordable housing. If that's true, no, that's really scary. That just means to me that a developer could come in and say, yeah, I want to build this many units, and here's all the money, so I can make all of these units standard rate, not affordable housing. So it's written right here, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but they can pay a fee per square foot for each unit they seek to exempt. That's a bad idea as well, I think. It's scary. I think this issue needs a lot more time, and I don't think we should rush to open this land to developers. It's scary. So please think about it, what it would do. Because what's going to come next is, well, those people that live in these houses need, other places to shop. So then you got strip malls, and what are we going to do? Build a Walmart where the farm was across from our house? It's scary. I mean, you can laugh about it, but that's how it happens. It happens in small increments like this, and then the whole place is ruined. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm only here to be certain that the clerk shared with you Miranda Perry's letter and that it's read into the record tonight, resident of 50.
Would you like to read it?
I think if all of you have received it and it is in the record, that I don't have to read it unless you want me to.
That would be great, yeah.
All right. This was addressed today to the town board members, and this would be from Miranda Perry at 50 Oak Street. As I am unable to attend tonight's public hearing, I would like to enter my comments regarding your intention to amend the town zoning code for workforce housing. Before you pass this measure, I would ask you provide the public with a lot more information. The town has never sent one public newsletter or statement explaining the zoning changes, their potential impact on our community, and why you are changing protocol Ray, the planning board participation for this one case. As I understand it, workforce housing as a concept was introduced for wealthy seasonal resort communities like Aspen, Colorado, to house workers who service the resorts. Is Rhinebeck really at the point where, instead of an inclusive approach, we need to throw up affordable housing outside town for a quote workforce? On the other hand, prices keep rising and more high-end development continues to push them in other gateway areas. We do have a real problem of affordability, but this seems like bad policy. I would hope that we first make every effort to find planning solutions that keep Rhinebeck the diverse and inclusive community that it is. If there are good arguments for why you believe a separate zone for workers is the best approach, the residents of the town and village of Rhinebeck would welcome hearing them. I appreciate your taking the time to read this. Sincerely, Miranda Perry.
Thank you for reading that.
Do you need a copy, John? No.
We have it.
Thank you.
Can you give it to Bill? Anybody else?
Don't worry, Warren, I'm completely. I'm still quite concerned that the concerns the planning board brought up were never discussed. I did reach out to a number of members of the town board, just hoping to sit down and talk to you about our concerns, why you felt maybe they weren't justified or whatever. Basically, I was told that the decision had been made by the town board and they really didn't want to discuss it further, and that the justification for doing this the way you're proposing to do it, rather than the way that we usually do project review and approval, was the feeling was that it would be less likely to lead to a lawsuit if the town board did it as a local law rather than as a normal process through a special use permit by the planning board. What also disturbed me is I was told that as chairman of the planning board, I shouldn't be speaking out on issues before the town, which I find to be, frankly, a reprehensible thing to say to any member of this community.
Can you say that again?
I was told that as chairman of the planning board, I should not be speaking out on issues confronting the town or issues before the plan or the town board. And I'm afraid I find that to be a reprehensible thing to be told. Clearly, I'm up here now. I will continue to speak to it. If this is a problem, then you need to find other people to serve as volunteers on your boards. We do care what we do. We do it. We take our time. We try to do the best job we possibly can. We don't take these things lightly. The concerns I have were not just something I just throw out at you. When we did the comprehensive plan, we spent 7 years. It was a lot of work, a lot of very hard work to come up with the policies that we have. Clearly from tonight, it's obvious that there's a great deal of confusion and misinformation out there about what is being proposed here. Affordable housing is important, but the community obviously has been left behind on this process, and I think it would be a very good idea to step back and take the time to really tell the people of this community what's being proposed, let them speak to you about what they feel might be other solutions, other things to consider. I think if you go ahead right now and do this, it's probably going to lead to the legal entanglement that we would all like to avoid. We need affordable housing, but we need to do it right. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Hi, my name is Brian Lopezzo. I live on West Chestnut Street. My wife and my 2 boys and I have lived in the village. My 2 boys were born here. We've been here for going on almost 8 years now. I'm a little concerned in general because I heard about this tonight. I mean, honestly, I hear about a lot of things. I talk to a lot of people, and I heard about this tonight. And you know, I have a lot of friends in the village, and speaking with all of them, they all heard about it tonight, probably from the same place that I did. And so, you know, I went out and did some research, and I saw there were some, you know, articles published on this and did a little reading. But the fact that nobody knows about it, and the things I'm hearing here tonight, just really, it leads me to believe that there hasn't really been a lot of public discourse around this topic, and that's concerning to me. It's concerning to me because this is the village where I live, and it's important that people talk, and it's important that we're aware of the changes that are being presented for our area, for our environment, for our space, and I would like to have a voice in that. And so I feel like I don't, and here I am, and I'm sharing, you know, my thoughts with you, but if this is truly the last hearing before this is voted on, I feel like we're missing the boat big time within this community. This is not the way this should go. And so I don't have a problem with what we're talking about. I just don't know anything about it. And my friends don't know anything about it. And you know, we all need to be part of this decision. So I personally would just like to understand, you know, why we're making the change from 6 to 10, you know, houses per acre. I mean, is there a driver behind that? Is there something that's pushing that change, that request? Where is that coming from? Why are we, you know, pushing that through? Is there something that is in motion, or there are plans, or they're not plans? Is this just because it makes good sense? Is this following some code? Is it part of some regulation? You know, I think these are the types of things that people will need to understand before we make a decision like this. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
I'm sorry, can you say your last name again?
Del Pizzo.
Jonathan Mensch, I'm actually chair of the Open Space and Affordable Housing Committee. And I think some of the concerns that are being raised have to do with people not quite understanding what it is we're proposing. We're really proposing a relatively modest potential density increase in the Village Gateway District, which is already zoned. It's actually the most dense area in town in terms of what's the potential zoning. We've been meeting over the last several years with affordable housing developers, with funding sources from the state to fund affordable housing projects. And what we've been told is that in order to make one of these projects viable financially, there needs to be a little more density available. There also needs to be access to town water and town sewer. And this is an area that has all of those things. What we're proposing is a process through which, if it were to come to pass that somebody wanted to pursue one of these, there would be an extensive review that would be conducted by both the town board and the planning board, with the planning board likely serving as lead agency, and then a full review of all of the specifics that were put forth in that proposal. There will be a lot of opportunity for public comment in the context of something potentially coming to fruition. This is simply a vehicle for one of these projects to potentially be realized, because what we've heard is that under the current zoning, no density exists that would be sufficient to allow that to happen. That's really the framework, and that's the reason that we're proposing it. We've had meetings in the past where we've spoken in much greater detail about what it is that lies within this law, but that's the basic idea. And so that's really the, okay.
I'm just curious, how is the woodlands on the edge of the village on the way around with one of the most densely?
That's in the existing zoning. The Village Gateway District zoning already exists. And that's what we're talking about is a relatively modest potential increase for a project that is in which 80%, at least 80% of those units are earmarked for affordable housing use. And that's geared to 80% of the area median income. So we're not talking about Section 8 housing, we're talking about housing that would be available, likely rental units at a price that was tied to people making 80% of what the median income is in this area.
But what about what I read about the developers coming in and paying a certain fee to get exempt?
That has to do with a project, not an affordable housing project of more than 10 units. There's a structure that's available to provide some additional funding to help facilitate a project. That's what this is. Anybody that was participating in this type of development, that was submitting this kind of an application, is required to keep these housing units affordable.
Then why do it? Why would you be doing it?
Because we've already conducted actually an extensive study that shows that there's a need for people, it's both the local workforce, and really they're mostly targeted at people that are, sort of 20-somethings that are working in all the local stores, plus seniors that are being priced out of the area economically. And then there's a 60-page.
Store, they can't possibly afford it anyway.
This is a public hearing, and we really don't do back and forth from the audience to a
It's
talker.
nonsense.
Well,
Well, you can come up and speak again after everyone has spoken, but we run this meeting orderly, and what we'd like is for people to speak, and we're here to listen. If you want to come up and speak again after everyone's had a chance, you're welcome to, but please don't have a dialogue with the speaker.
It's hard because we don't know anything about it, so when someone
I've just
knowledgeable
asked for there
comes-
not to be,
No, I understand that, no, I completely understand that, but it's hard because he's so knowledgeable about
You can
everything,
come
that
back
we want to
and
ask
ask
questions.
questions.
I mean, is there going to be a question and answer part of this, or no? It's not.
we're listening to everybody's comments, and what we're hearing is that we need more information.
Yeah.
So this is why we have a public hearing.
Right, no, I didn't
No, and
understand.
there have been more detailed explanations in the past, if there's a need to do that again. I mean, whatever you all think makes the most sense. We're just, this has been an ongoing process, and we've explained a lot of the details in the past. I wasn't prepared to do all that today. But I'm not saying that, I mean, I
No,
understand
no,
you're
no,
hearing it
it's
for the first time. That's just sort of, what it is. I wasn't planning on going through it all again tonight. I just wanted to answer some of those concerns directly,
I
and at
think
least provide us with
we'll
an
have to
overview.
have, extend this and have some more public outreach while we've been working on it for years. We'll have to see what the town board wants to do, but we're here to listen to your comments.
Jonathan, I have a question. Was anybody from the village on your committee?
We had somebody in the village on the committee early on. And this process has been probably, like a 4-year process. And some of that dropped off. And now that we're back looking at it, there've been some informal meetings, but we haven't had an official village representative at our.
I know we're not supposed to ask questions, but what was your name? And what's your-
Jonathan Mensch.
What's your role in this?
I'm the chair of the Open Space and Affordable Housing Committee. So we were formed at the behest of the town board to try to look at ways to provide affordable, really workforce housing in Rhinebeck. And for some of the same concerns, that there weren't housing options available for people that were working locally to also live locally. So we've been trying to figure out a way.
And I'm fine with questions. It's the sort of putting a speaker on the spot that's uncomfortable for me, and I think a person wanting to be heard. Mike, can I say, hold on,
Yeah,
Sue. I think Mike's coming up first.
Well, someone wants to spoke.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Ladies
Ladies
first.
first.
Ladies first.
Absolutely.
Sue Hartson. I've been a member of the Open Space Affordable Housing Committee for the last, I'm just trying to figure out whether it was 6 or 9 years. It actually feels like it was 9 years, not 6. Jonathan has been doing this much longer than I, but I just want to remind you all, who are members of the public, that this is an outgrowth of the comprehensive plan. This is not something that just sort of came up out of the sludge. It was an outgrowth of the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan initiated workforce housing in Rhinebeck
In 2009, right?
in 2009. It's been a while. It's only 10 years, Al. What more do you want? The other thing, I have a child, one of my 2 children. I've been here for 50 years. I'm happy to say that. And I am very aware of the cost of housing for young people who may be children of people who have been here for generations or just one generation, as I have been, who wish to stay and work and live in Rhinebeck and cannot do it because there is no workforce housing, or very little. The Dutchess County Planning Board, I'm sorry, not the Planning Board, Planning Department, looked at this in, what was it, 10 years ago, and said that this town needed 85 or more workforce homes. So I think what this project is, should it ever come to fruition, is one that is needed here in Rhinebeck. And I think the citizens of Rhinebeck and their children really deserve to have this kind of workforce housing in place so that people who do work here can live here, so that people who live here can work here. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Mike, did you want?
Yes.
As we've heard back and forth here, there seems to be a debate going on. And I've always believed if you have 2 debate teams, one is the community, one is the board, and they're back and forth, and there's certainly an interest. I've always felt that both debate teams, have to be well informed. And if you're gonna take a position on something, you should probably know the other person's position even better than your own. So I think it just behooves us to think about informing the community a little bit better, so when we have a meeting like this, that the community is coming from a foundation of knowledge, and therefore, if you're going to debate it back and forth and express your opinions and so forth and so on, and they're from an educated point of view, and I think that's important. Because otherwise, you can become awful emotional, and then you lose sight of your intent. Right, so that's how I feel, and I'm finished.
Thank you. Sure.
So now that I heard Jonathan's comments, so I want to reiterate 3 things. I've seen this, it's not going to work. The two things that I told you will be the case. Property values will go down, taxes will go up. That's a given. Second thing is compliance with this, to create what's called rental housing for workforce in Rhinebeck. Once these buildings start getting developed, you can't enforce that the people that are going to reside in that work in Rhinebeck. It's going to be open to the public. It's impossible to comply with that. It's illegal. So that's a secondary issue, and that has huge implications to this project. Again, I've seen it in other counties. If you want, we'll take a field trip and you can go see the neighborhoods that they did this in. It'll shock you.
Anybody else?
I'm Nina Lynch. I live at 1 West Court in the village, although not up here. I joined the committee about 3.5, 4 years ago as a direct result of a program that Rhinebeck at Home, a nonprofit that is composed of folks who want to age in place, held at Northern Dutchess Hospital. We had about 80 people with us. One of our presenters was Ann Saylor from the county planning. We talked a lot about trying to stay in our homes, downsize from our bigger homes into smaller homes, and the clear need that was felt at that meeting for places for older adults to live in Rhinebeck where they could take advantage of walking to the stores, to the pharmacy, wherever they wanted to go, to the library. As far as I understand from being on this committee, this is a piece of the comprehensive plan. It is not a project. It's not a project. There is no project in place. This is the groundwork so that when and if the funding, the pieces all come together, we as a community can work together to figure out how we have homes for older adults who want to live in their own homes, places for caregivers to live, for the folks who work at the hospital, all of us, and to share the community in that way. This is not a project.
Thank you, Nina. Anybody else? Nobody else wants to be heard? Should we hold open the,
Yeah, I have to leave for another meeting, I'm sorry, but I've heard what everybody has said tonight. Just reiterate what the last speaker has mentioned. This is not something that was done serendipitous by the town board. It was through a long process of planning with an affordable housing committee that worked for 3 years on this zoning. And it was discussed many times at public meetings and meetings of the town board. I'm concerned that a lot of the speakers that spoke tonight have not read the local law. It's on the website. I think before you comment on a local law, you should read it. You should also read the town zoning law, which has an extensive provision in there for affordable housing. You should read the comprehensive plan, which requires affordable housing in the town. When we developed the comprehensive plan in 2009, we were very concerned about potential lawsuits that would challenge the comprehensive plan because of the lack of affordable housing. And that's why the zoning law was designed to have a affordable housing, we called it at that time affordable housing, we now call it workforce housing provision, a very lengthy provision in the plan. And we were in fact sued by developers who were not happy with the zoning that was provided for in the comprehensive plan. And one of the reasons why we were successful in defending those lawsuits is because we had provisions for workforce housing. There's a long line of cases in New York State which requires municipalities to provide affordable workforce housing, not only for its citizens, but people of neighboring properties. If you violate that, it's called exclusionary zoning. This local law, if anybody wants to take the opportunity to read it before they comment on it, does not create a project. It does not do anything but allow for a project to come into the town board and make application to the town board, which would then be very carefully considered and vetted and environmentally reviewed by the town board before they allow this project to go forward. And it would only be cited in the district that the Affordable Housing Committee has determined has the greatest proximity to water and sewer and to public transportation and to the village. And it was the most appropriate area for this type of project to happen. Passing of this law doesn't mean this project will happen. It may be 20 years before we get a developer that's going to come in and want to do this, but we want to have the law in place. And before anything happens, there will be a very, very intensive review of any development plan before it happens. And I'm a little disappointed in the comments that I'm hearing, which I think may be based on misinformation that has been disseminated to the community. I think it's an obligation not only of the town board to educate the public, but for the public to educate themselves before they get up in public and speak on a project that they have not reviewed, even though it's been before them for many months. So yes, we can continue the public hearing. I urge everybody to read the proposed local law and all the documentation on the website that's associated with the local law. Read our comprehensive plan and its provisions for affordable housing. Read our zoning law and its very extensive provisions for affordable and workforce housing. And then, when you come in at the next meeting, you'll have the benefit of seeing what we're really proposing here and can comment on what we're actually doing. And then we'll be happy to deal with those comments. So, turn it to the next meeting?
Yeah, as far as process, we can keep this open. I'd like to, have the Workforce Housing Committee write a statement. We should get some more information out to the public, and we can continue this. Does that sound like what everybody wants to do?
Yes.
I think it would.
I'm sorry, I have to interrupt you.
No, go, fine. What my takeaway from this is that the public doesn't know what we're doing, although it has been on in open meetings and we have discussed it many times. Maybe we'll do a little special newsletter devoted just to this, and I'll tell you about it tomorrow. So we'll keep this public hearing open. Do we have to adjourn it to another day?
I think it's probably not a bad idea just to adjourn it to your next town board meeting.
And then we can.
Or to one in May.
Yeah, let's adjourn it, hold open or adjourn to, what's our first meeting in May? 13th. So we're holding this open until the 13th? Adjourned. I'm sorry?
I have it for the 13th as well.
Yes, okay. Thanks for coming and speaking. Okay, resolutions. I will make a motion for resolution 2019-099, which is for our budget transfers and amendments. May I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Alan. Are there any questions or any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved. I will make a motion for resolution 2019-100 for our preliminary accounts payable abstract, 70 checks totaling $75,944.38. May I have a second? Thank you, Ed. Is there any discussion or any questions? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved. I will make a motion for resolution 2019-101 for our capital projects abstracts, 2 checks totaling $450. May I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Chauncey. Are there any questions or comments about these 2 charges? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. I'd like to have a motion for resolution 2019-102 for the annual Association of Towns Finance Training for the supervisor and the bookkeeper. Thank you, Ed.
Excuse me, can we please, can you take your conversation outside, please?
Thank you, Warren. Thank you. Thanks for coming. I'm sorry, I lost track of where we were.
You need a second for 2019.
Who motioned? Ed, thank you. Who seconded? Thank you, Chauncey. I apologize. Is there any discussion or any comment? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved. I'd like a motion for resolution 2019-103 for our shared service agreement with the New York State Department of Transportation.
Motion.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Ed. Is there any discussion or questions or comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Resolution 2019-104, I would like to ask that we table this. This is our 284 agreement with the Highway Department for expenditures of monies. I've received several calls from residents concerned that the 204 has an asphalt paving job of Pell's Road. And Pell's Road is a very rural road, so I've been asked to speak to the highway superintendent about doing oil and chip. You guys all right with that?
Yes.
Can we table it? Thanks. John, will you move it to the next meeting? Thank you. Sorry, just give me a second here. I'll make a note for myself. Thank you. I would like a motion for resolution 2019-105, the appointment of a recreation advisory committee.
Motion.
Thank you. Alan, may I have a second?
Second.
Is that Ed? Alan and Ed, thanks.
Just so you know, this Jennifer came from the Recreation Committee meeting. She was interviewed.
Great. Great, thanks for volunteering, Jennifer. Any further questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Resolution 2019-106 for Recreation Summer Camp Handbook and certain administrative fees. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Robin. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Chauncey. Is there any discussion or questions? All All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved. I'd like a motion for Resolution 2019-107 for our recreation facility use request.
Motion.
Thank you, Alan. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ed. This is for the Chamber of Commerce to use,
Right, there's a bazaar. They want to put up to 20 tents. It'll be for September, I'm sorry. The fundraising event is May 18th and 19th. They'll provide insurance that covers the town's liability. They'll pay $150 a day for the...
are we going to make this policy?
Well, the idea would be, policy would be that...
Come to the town board
Come
every
to the
time.
town board, and, in effect, we should ask for insurance coverage and $150 a day for
Use of that field,
the, plus or minus, depending on how much of the field they want to use, and certainly they have to agree.
or if it's
to it.
for-profit or non-for-profit. And they have to clean up here?
Yep.
Okay, great. Any further questions? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Resolution 2019-108, Summer 2019 Recreation Department hires. May I have a motion?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Ed. Any discussion or questions?
Another lifeguard.
Great. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Resolution 2019-109, Amazon Prime membership for the town of Rhinebeck. I'll make a motion. May I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Alan. We occasionally order things off Amazon Prime and people are using their personal accounts. So we wanted to have a town account so that there's no using of personal accounts. We try and shop local whenever we can. Occasionally, we have to get something that just isn't here and needs to be shipped in. And, well, I mean, any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Resolution 2019-110 for the purchase of certain recreational park pool supplies and services for the maintenance department. May I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Thanks, Ed. May I have a second? Thanks, Alan. Is there any discussion or,
I can go over this a little bit if you want.
if you want to,
We've
sure.
read at a lot of these particular places, try to get three quotes, and Recreonics, almost all of them bids, and they actually won almost, I think they won all bids. So we
Great,
worked out a good account.
great. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved. I have some new business. It's a resolution 2019-111. I'll make a motion. May I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Alan. It's just missed our deadline. This is a request for additional part-time help for the assessor's office. We have, because of the reassessment, we have a ton of additional paperwork that we didn't foresee, and we just need help catching up while these, So we want a part-time worker for $15 an hour for not to exceed 20 hours a week.
No motion?
I think it's on the table, I'm just explaining it. I
Oh,
motioned it,
Oh, okay.
and Alan seconded it.
Oh,
We're
okay.
good, we're discussing it.
It's the resolution says 15 hours a week.
Not to exceed 15 hours a week for $15 an hour. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Any further questions, any discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. I also want to announce that we have received our authorization to operate the pool pavilion, the pavilion at the park. Board of Health sent it to us, emailed it to me today. There are some conditions on here that I'm not quite sure of. I'll forward it to all of you. But, thanks to Aaron Peppick and Dave Pearson, we finally have our BOH approval. So we should decide when we want to have a ribbon cutting and what we'd like to do. We'll go from there. Is there any other, discussion, seasonal labor and mowing?
We're having a meeting on Thursday.
Okay, we had for the public, our full-time seasonal employee has accepted a full-time job and so is not available to us. And this is a union position, and we need to figure out what we're doing for the seasonal full-time help that we need to mow and help Gary in the cemetery. You and Ed are going to meet with Bobby and Gary on
Yes.
Thursday and report back?
Yes.
Great. Okay. Anything else? Did you guys, I'm going to ask the Affordable Housing Committee to put forth something that we look at and can get out to the public. Yes. Yeah. And I think that's it. Anything else further to discuss? I'd like to make would anybody else like to adjourn? I'll second that. Thanks, everybody. Good night.